Hi, welcome to the channel. Today I wanted to do something a little different and I wanted to talk about the best books that I read this year, 2021. As we're coming to a close, I figured I should accumulate the books that I read because I actually read some pretty good books this year and I wasn't that big of a reader before. This year I decided, why not read some books, and I really enjoyed some. So I have 8 books. Not that many, but we're not here for the numbers, we're here for the good stories. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first book that I read this year actually turned out to be one of my favorites, but it was already a favorite of mine, and I actually don't have the physical copy of it. I borrowed it from my sister. The very first book, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, but that's not an uncommon thing because I'm talking about To Kill a Mockingbird. This is one of my all-time favorite books, and I remember it being one of my all-time favorite books. And I decided to reread it, so I reread it earlier this year in like January, and I loved it again. I was like, yep, I do have good taste. So there you go, To Kill a Mockingbird. If you don't know what this book is about, it is about a girl named, oh my gosh, what is her name? Scout. Okay, so it was about a little girl who's about 8 or 9. Her name is Scout, who is the daughter of a very well-known lawyer in town. And the first half of the book is really just them living their lives, I guess. You know, their dad is exquisite. Their dad has my heart forever. And they basically just, you know, it's an 8-year-old growing up. It's summertime, but it is known to be a classic because of the second half of the story, which follows, you know, Scout Finch's dad, Atticus Finch, and he is a defense lawyer for this black man who is falsely accused of sexually harassing a white woman. That's basically the last half of the book. A lot of life lessons, a lot of coming of age type of themes going on here, and those are like my favorite type of books are historical fiction and books told from a child's perspective. So I guess coming of age, those are my favorite genres to read. I can't get enough. 5 out of 5 stars. It is a classic for a reason. Atticus Finch is the love of my life. The next book that I read is My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry. Kind of a long ass title, but a good ass book. I actually got this recommended to me from Reddit. So thank you to Reddit for suggesting this book. I told them basically exactly what I'm telling you guys, that I love books told from a child's perspective, and that's exactly what this is. This is a book about a young 8-year-old girl named, oh wait, well she's 7, but she turns 8. About a 7-year-old girl named Elsa who is extremely close with her grandmother who passes away. Not a spoiler, it's in the first freaking like chapter, and basically sends her on an adventure to, I say adventure, but it's actually kind of sad. Basically a little treasure scavenger hunt to deliver letters and to basically have the grandmother say sorry to all these people that she's basically feels the need to say sorry to. And so Elsa does that. It is a very cute coming of age story. And I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was gonna be kind of like weird, fantasy, boring. I'm not really into fantasy. I don't think I've ever even read a fantasy type of book, but this one was just so good. The relationship that Elsa and her grandmother have together is just so freaking cute. Just the way it's written too is realistic, you know what I mean? Well, not that realistic, but it deals with real life shit going on, and that's kind of why I like books written from the perspective of like a young child, because there's all this shit going on in the world, but they don't really realize it. And you as the reader, who is probably not an 8-year-old reading this book, finds all of the shit out, and it's freaking sad. And it's really self-reflective. So super good. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. You should definitely read it. Very, very good. All right, the next book that I read, this is the time period in my life of, I guess, of this year that I started getting really into BookTube and watching YouTubers talk about very hyped up books from TikTok, because I'm not on TikTok, so I genuinely don't know. But one of them, which I'm sure if you know anything about BookTube or Book Talk, you've probably seen this before, but it is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I should probably tell you guys the authors too. Whatever, I'll write in the description. But this is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I picked it up because everyone was hyping it up. And I just heard there was a love story, and I was like, you know what? Everyone's giving this 5 out of 5 stars. Why not? I read it, and the relationship that these two have, it's so good. So this is about, I actually don't really know how to pronounce his name, but it is also the name of this planet right here, Patroclus. This is taking place, this is like a Greek mythology type of book, but it's not super, you're in the middle of a history class and you're falling asleep. It's actually pretty interesting, and it's actually engaging and not super lengthy on descriptions of Greek mythology. Gives you a short little sentence. That's all the info you need to know. But it is about Patroclus and Achilles, and they basically just fall in love. And then, I don't know, some war happens. And then the Battle of Troy happens, all this shit. It's basically just them living their lives and growing together. It literally takes place from them as children to adults. I don't want to give too much away. I feel like if I say anything, I'm going to give it away because I really want you guys to read this book. It's so good. Gay love story if you want to read it. Very cute, very sad. I could not put this down. I had to keep reading it, and I was actually surprised that I finished this because it was a pretty lengthy book. It's about like 369 pages. 369 pages, so it's a pretty big book. But I finished this in like 2 weeks because I just could not put this down. Song of Achilles, 5 out of 5 stars. The next one that I read was something else that I just could not put down. And that is Room by Emma Donoghue. Oh my gosh, talk about a freaking novel. And I got this in Boise, and it is signed by the author. Wow, that's pretty cool, huh? Room is a book told from the perspective of 5-year-old Jack, who has been living in Room, which is actually just a converted shed, trapped in there with his mother. He was born in Room. Room is all that he knows. His mother was captured when she was a teenager, and Room is all that Jack knows because he was born in there. And it basically just follows the story of him realizing life things, and basically like how the turmoil of being trapped in a traumatic situation like that has an effect on such a young child, because there's a lot of things about the world that Jack just doesn't know because he's been trapped in a room with no windows, no doors, and it just follows their routine and them trying to escape. And it tugs at your heartstrings, and you really want to know what's gonna happen. Like, I remember being so tired, but I'm like, I gotta keep reading it. I can't stop now. It is so good. It is heartwarming. It is sad. I did watch the movie adaptation from this. There was an A24 movie with Brie Larson in it, and I did not like it. I did not like it very much. It made me sad because one of my other books on here also has a movie adaptation, and I'm afraid I won't like that movie adaptation either. Room, the book, is way different than the movie, so I recommend reading the book. I feel like it's a lot more impactful in the book than in the movie, because there's a lot of stuff that they took out, and I did not like it very much. Jack, who is the protagonist, and he is just the cutest thing ever, and I love him, and I want the best for him. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. Okay, next is a book that I didn't give it 5 out of 5 stars, but it came pretty freaking close. And I did not even know about this. This is a book I also got in Idaho when I went to go visit. And I remember seeing it and being like, I remember someone talking about it. I'm just gonna buy it. And I'm so glad that I did because I really enjoyed this one. And that is Outlawed by Anna North. This follows, I should probably like read Ada. I always forget the main character's name. Whoopsies. This follows Ada's life. Basically, this is taking place in like cowboy old western time because Ada cannot have children. Basically, they don't know what's up, and this is in a time where if you're barren, if you can't produce children, then people just think you're a witch. So she basically has to escape her hometown, and she eventually joins a gang called Hole in the Wall Gang. It's kind of like a found family type of thing, but it's just her living her life in this gang and learning to be a criminal, I guess, which sounds like kind of messed up, but it's really interesting. Trust and believe. Trust and believe. The characters are so likable in this, and I don't know, just the way that it was written, like these freaking, oh my gosh, I don't even know. The way that it's written, the freaking characteristics that these, characters have are so interesting, and I feel like it's actually pretty realistic, even though it is following someone in like an old western cowboy gang. But it's so interesting, and you just see her lives and you fall in love with the people in the book, and you just want the best for them. That's how I should describe this. It's a book where you just want the best for everyone. There's not really people in here that you just really dislike because, aside from the people thinking that you're a witch. But that's besides the point. I gave this 4.5 stars because although I did enjoy pretty much everything about this book, I just didn't like the ending. I don't know, it felt kind of like anticlimactic, and I just wish that there was something else that ended the story of these people that I just grew so much care for. I don't know. The ending was kind of bleh, but everything else about this book was a 5 out of 5. The ending brought me down a little bit. All right, the next book is something that I also did not give 5 out of 5 stars, but it also came pretty freaking close. I gave this 4.5 stars too, because when it hit, it hit. And when it didn't, it really did not land like at all. I was just confused and didn't know what was going on. And that is Serious Concerns by Wendy Cope. This is a poetry book, and you just get the best. Like, I'm telling you, like, when they hit, they fucking hit. I had to like put tabs in all the ones that were just like chef's kiss. It was so good. But again, there were some that I was like, who are you? What is happening? Like, some that just really fucking confused me. But then there are ones that were really good. It was a 50-50 book, but I bumped it up all the way to a 4.5 stars because the ones that I did enjoy were just so likable. And yeah, pretty short. It's a poetry book, so let's see, it's 87 pages. Sorry, I just read the last poem. So good. So good! I don't know, and just an easy, quick way. I really recommend short stories and poetry collections if you want to get back into reading or boost up. Like, I read this many books this year, and they're all like 60 pages. Think smarter, not harder. The next book that I read is one that I also gave 4.5 stars, and it's something that I do not have with me because I checked it out at the library, but it is The Razor's Edge by W. Somerset Maugham. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm so sorry. Oh, that's so embarrassing. At least I tried. But The Razor's Edge. It is an exquisite book. This is historical fiction to, like, it hit the freaking head of the hammer, or the nail head on the hammer. I never know what that saying actually is. It was good, okay? I don't know what else to say. This book follows a writer. I'm trying to remember. Actually, you know what? That's why we have a reading journal, people. So this follows an author who is friends with Elliot Templeton, who is an aristocrat who values high society. and it's taken place in the 1920s and 30s, and we meet Elliot's niece, Isabel, her fiance, Larry, and Elliot's sister. And it basically just follows this aristocratic, pish-posh, very sophisticated family's lives through the 1920s, 1930s in Chicago, and then the Great Depression happens. If you didn't know, that's what happened in the 1920s and 1930s. The Great Depression happens, stock market crashes, everyone loses their money and basically has to start from scratch, and it's kind of a shit show. So that's basically what happens. Larry wants to just basically live his life and loaf, which basically means chillax. Do whatever you freaking want to do, just nothing, I guess. But he's basically out to find the true meaning of life and happiness. And it follows just these people's lives in different points of them. So the author is the main character. Like, the main character is an author, and he basically catches up with these people. It's like, 2 years later I saw Larry again, and I said, hey, what's up? And we caught up, and you know what I mean? So it's like you find out what has been going on in these people's lives as if you just saw them walking on the street. Like, if you just saw an old friend walking on the street and you're like, oh yeah, hey, what have you been up to? And they told you, that's how the book is, basically. Very well written. There were so many quotes in there that I was like, damn, you really wrote that? And that came from your freaking mind. But it's basically just a nice story about these people basically realizing that everything that they thought was gonna bring them happiness doesn't bring them happiness. So it's a very reflective book, historical fiction to a T, because of everything that goes on in that time period. They all moved to Paris, and if there isn't a book out there in the world that makes you want to move to Paris, it will be that book, because the descriptions, the scenery, imagery, everything about it, exquisite. Simply exquisite. All right, and the last book that I read has always been a 5 out of 5 for me. But it is a book that I wanted to reread because I needed to feel like it was one of those things where you just wanted to be back in that world again. If you want to it's one of those books where you would give anything to read it for the first time and feel everything you felt for the first time again. It's like feeling love for the first time again is how much I love this book. All right, take your favorite movie. Imagine if you can watch that movie for the first time again. That experience, oof. So that's basically why I reread this. Long-winded way of me telling you why I reread this book. And that is The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd. This is my favorite book of all time. Of all time. I mean, I wanted to underline every freaking thing in here. And yes, I do annotate my books. I wanted to underline every freaking line in this, highlight. There's so many freaking sticky notes, post-it notes in here. I actually just recently finished reading this too, so I'm still in the process of getting out of this world because I just want to be in it all the time. But this is set in South Carolina, 1964. A lot of shit going on in that time period, if you don't know. Yeah, so this basically tells a story of Lily Owens and her, how the people describe it as like her stand-in mother, but it's the 60s, so it's basically like their worker, like the family's worker for them. I don't even know, servant. I don't know what it is. Like, you're not a slave, but you're basically still doing all the stuff. So kind of stupid. But it is basically about Lily Owens and her stand-in mother, Rosaline, and basically their journey of them escaping Lily's abusive father and basically living their lives out in a beekeeper's house. They move away from North Carolina and they move all the way down to South Carolina and escape basically all the way there to this person's house named August Boatwright and her sisters. And it basically just follows their lives, and it's really, again, a really self-reflective book, another found family type of book. Lily's motivation to go there is because she finds basically an artifact from her mother that describes August Boatwright, that describes, the honey that the Boatwright sisters produce and the honey that they sell. And she's like, okay, I need to go there. I need to go to Tiburon, South Carolina. Goes, we meet August Boatwright and the sisters, and they basically raise Lily. And it's just about them living their lives. A lot of analogies, a lot of similes and metaphors through bees. And it is just so amazing. Like, when I tell you the writing for this is breathtaking, I'm not kidding. It is truly something that I will never not like. And it is a timeless classic. It is so good. I feel like I can't describe it enough. This is probably a better description. It is a remarkable novel about divine female power and a story that women will share and pass on to their daughters for years to come. Lily is just an amazing character, and you feel everything that she's feeling because the descriptions are so precise and everything is so detailed. You feel everything that she is feeling, and it hits you. It hits you right where it counts. It really does. Same thing with Song of Achilles. This book and Song of Achilles were the two that really hit me right where I feel the pain. Right where I feel the pain. But in that same aspect, it hits you also right where you feel the love. And your heart is just filled with love. It is a very feel-good book. If you want to feel good, this is the book for you. Favorite book of all time. Alright, and that is the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what your favorite books or book or whatever of the year was for you guys. I can't wait to keep reading and discover more of my favorites in the years to come and just in life. I'm excited to keep reading and keep expanding my imagination in this world and read all the books that I can while I'm here on Earth. I truly cannot wait. Thank you guys for clicking. Thank you guys for coming along with me on this journey. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all of that jazz, and as always, thanks for watching.